Um, Good evening, Camby. Welcome to what is the date today? Wow, June 2nd. Time flies when you're having fun. 2021 City Council regular meeting. I apologize for the delay. We had a very in-depth work session here this evening regarding the Malala Forest Road plan that's been worked on. So we got an update regarding that. And we also had a very lengthy and brief. Can they be the same thing? We'll say brief and intense conversation about the road maintenance fee with more to come on that. First up on the agenda is citizen input and community announcements. This is an opportunity for audience members to address the City Council on items not on the agenda. Each person will be given 3 minutes to speak. Staff and City Council will make every effort to respond to questions raised during the citizen input before the meeting ends or as quickly as possible thereafter. Ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes, which I did say that already. If you would like to speak virtually or in person, please email or call the city recorder. You can get put on the list. That would be Melissa Bissett. That's Bissett, BISSETM at cambyoregon.gov, or you may call at 503-266-0733. We'll get you on the agenda to tap in virtually or on the phone. Right now, first for citizen input is David Tate and Linda Tate want to speak in support of resolution number 1356, which is later here in the agenda. Mr. and Mrs. Tate.
Good evening. Sorry, we're corralling the dogs. We're here tonight to speak in favor of a resolution for truthful and communication from the council and the mayor, which we understand is going to be discussed later this evening. Albert Einstein said that whoever is careless with the truth in small matters cannot be trusted with important matters. The mayor and 3 members of the city council were careless with the truth in their writing and supporting of resolution 1347. Some may argue that that's just not a big deal. It was an important symbol of support for local businesses. It was important to take action quickly, although I don't know what action was taken, and I don't know why it needed to be done quickly. Some may say that the details were not as important as the big symbolism. And some may finally say, well, you just shouldn't expect politicians to tell the truth. But in the end, we're still left with a mayor and 3 city council members that were careless with the truth. In my opinion, this now means you cannot and should not be trusted with important matters. I hope later tonight we see unanimous support for a resolution for truthful communications from the council and mayor, because your actions related to resolution 1347 showed that for some of you, you clearly do not understand the importance of communicating truthfully to the citizens of Camby. And I'll let my wife have the chair.
Hi, thank you for having us. So I have very few things to say. One is I felt the betrayal of what you did pretty strongly, actually. I saw people on social media say things like, go mayor, get him, stick it to the man. Yay, finally somebody's sticking up for us. And, all these things. And I kept thinking, this is so wrong. This is so wrong. Like half the stuff in this isn't true. But they thought it was because you said it was, and they trusted you. My dad used to say, if you don't have your word, you have absolutely nothing. And I want to see tonight, I'm all about the solution. I feel like you have to hold yourselves accountable. You have to. In order to regain the trust that was lost, you have to hold yourselves. You have to stand up and have integrity and say, I'm so sorry. You're right. Stuff that was in there wasn't true. And from now on, we're going to know better, and we're going to do better. We're going to be better. Because if you can't do that, if you can't hold yourselves accountable, then how can anybody trust you in the future? So I feel like in my world, in the real world, somebody should have to pay consequences for this, like, resignations or demotions or something, but I guess I realize that we're not really kind of living in the real world when it comes to politics, or really, you guys aren't supposed to be political. You're supposed to be bipartisan, which makes it all the more egregious. Can you guys learn to play together in the sandbox, please? Stop it. Just stop it. It's a bad look. It really is. So I'm just going to mirror what David said. And I really would like to see you all cooperate and say, we're going to work together. We're sorry for what happened. It's not going to happen again. And we support this resolution to tell the truth moving forward. I think it's really important that you do this. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you. Next is, I believe, Jason Patton.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, council and city staff and mayor. Thank you for having me on tonight. As you probably can imagine, I attended your work session because one of the items on there was near and dear to my heart, and that is streets. And I have to say, and I'm going to gloat a little bit about this, I feel very vindicated after seeing those numbers that were presented to you tonight. And affirms to me what I have been pushing for many years, that by not increasing this fee, you are choking the city's ability to maintain its streets for the future. One of the things that was talked about towards the end was whether this is a fee or a tax. I can tell you that the reason it was made a fee was because the committee at the time and the leaders of the city at the time were almost positive that if this had went to the vote, that the citizens of this community would not vote for it. They have no problem voting for police and fire and schools for the most part, but roads are something that they use every day and for some reason do not understand that they cost money. There was an effort that was put forward by a group of people, primarily led by the gas stations in the city at the time, to bring this to a vote, because that is how the process works, and it failed. So that is why we have this fee today. My caution to the council is that if you raise the fee too quickly, you will trigger citizens wanting to bring this to a vote. And my fear is that in doing so, it will fail, and then the city will be left with broken, brittle streets, and then 10 years down the road, when it will cost millions of dollars to fix, there will be no money to do so. And I will also go so far as to say that and I know there are counselors that are very hot to trot to bring this up to a vote. I will say this: if you choose to bring this to a vote and it fails and the city streets degrade, it will be on your shoulders that you took a program that was doing exactly what it was intended to. The money that was being generated by it was truthfully and equitably being spent on exactly what it was supposed to be spent for. And when the roads deteriorate and people's cars get destroyed and so on and so forth, it will rest on your shoulders that is going on. I beg and plead that you please work to make this fee work so that when I'm your age, or when I'm 60 or 70, or your grandchildren are driving around the city of Canby, that they don't have to go to the tire place constantly to get wheel alignments and new tires. So, and I will continue to push this until something is actually done. Oh, and that's 3 minutes. I'm done.
Great. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you coming this evening and being voicing your thoughts on the matter regarding the road maintenance fee. I know that you were very involved in that and still are very close to it to make sure that the future council stay on it. So thank you. Melissa, I don't think there's anyone else right now for public comment. Is that correct?
That's correct. We do not have anyone else.
All right, great. Thank you. Next on the agenda this evening is an update regarding downtown parking. And I believe Jamie Stickle is here to present on that.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Jamie's making her way up here. She's going to give you just a brief update. This is informational for you and also for our viewing audience that may be interested in this. We, as you know, we have an ever-evolving and hopefully continually getting busier and robust downtown. And with that, we have the opportunity to continue to refresh and update our downtown parking situation. And this is not anything, a major change of any type, but we're just refreshing some signage and doing some proactive work and outreach. And Jamie has been very helpful in coordinating and helping to spearhead that effort. So I thought it'd be nice if she'd just give you a quick update on what we're doing and what's coming up in the near future.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Over the last few years, downtown Canby has seen tremendous growth. It's also seen increased business, increased development, increased activity, which is something that we really want to see. And with those positive increases also has come some, it has highlighted some of the parking constraints that some of our businesses feel. So most of the parking in the downtown core is 2-hour parking on street. And sometimes we have people who come downtown and they want to stay a little longer. And so they might be in a 2-hour parking stall for longer than anticipated. So we had heard from some of our business owners who are asking us what the city can do to assist them in helping to remind people that on-street parking is 2 hours. And we had a really robust conversation as far as city staff. So Scott led the conversation. Our planning department was there, code enforcement, obviously, public works. And, it's one of many robust conversations I've had about parking in my nearly 9 years of being with the city. And what we hear from our business owners and the community is we want to see changes in some of these, some of the habits that people have built without moving to daily enforcement, which is great because we do want to encourage people to continue to come downtown and to enjoy coming downtown. So we decided that we would work on, first off, some updated signage in the downtown core. This is being kicked off on Northwest 2nd Avenue between Ivy and Hawley. It's a 2-hour parking sign that says Monday through Saturday, 8 to 6. And we installed, Public Works installed 6 of those parking signs on that block. And what we did is removed the parking signage that was there. Many of the signs that we have downtown, it's inconsistent, therefore it makes it confusing. So the goal is to really create cohesive and consistent signage throughout the downtown core. It will, as I said, Monday through Saturday, 8 to 6. And I emphasize that again so that viewers at home can start to put some good behavior into play. We also decided that an emphasis on outreach would be a very important thing. So Carrie Innes, who is our code enforcement officer, she and I went out to one of the businesses and talked to them about some of their concerns. And we were able to follow up with them and with another business. And while we were doing that, Public Works, as if we planned it, and I wish I would have been so thoughtful, was there to hang the new signage. So it really was, they weren't just hearing that we were going to do it, but they were seeing that the new signage was coming. We also, earlier today, I sent out a press release to you that will go out to the Canby Herald, the Canby Current on our social media. And when I say our social media, I mean the City of Canby, Canby Business, and Canby Police. And this helps to announce some of those changes. I truly believe that the people of Canby and the people that visit downtown want to do the right thing. And so having cohesive signage and knowing exactly what is expected of them will help them do the right thing. And one of those things also highlights where you can park if you need to be downtown longer term, whether that is because you're going to go to a hair appointment and grab lunch and then go shopping, or if you are a downtown resident and you don't need to move your car necessarily a couple times during the day. And so we have highlighted some of that longer term parking, which is on the public parking lots on Northwest 1st Avenue near the railroad tracks. And then also what we call the cinema parking lot, which is Northeast 2nd Avenue. And a reminder that per the city code, no cars can stay on the street for more than 72 hours, but we're hoping to at least move people to longer term parking if that's what their intention is. And then additionally, we will be working with Calvin, our economic development and tourism coordinator, is going to be working on a document that he's going to be taking to downtown businesses and engaging them on where their customers can park, where employees can park, just in an effort to get the word out, to hopefully reinforce some good behavior, as well as additional signage past that one block, but that's just where we started. And then finally, if a business should have an issue, they could call the non-emergency police line, and that's at 503-655-8211. With that, I would open it for any questions or comments.
Great, Jamie. Thank you very much for bringing this up as an update. Parking spot turnover is much like in the restaurant business is key to much like table turnover. And so I think the continuity of messaging and reemphasizing education versus being punitive, I think is helpful. So thank you for that. Councilor Spoon, you have a comment or question?
Thank you, Mayor. So, Jamie, we've been talking about parking for decades now, not really that long, but it seems like over the last 4 or 5 years, it's become a progressively more urgent conversation as downtown grows and more people come and people that are coming stay for longer. One of my concerns is that I don't want it to be left up to the businesses to be the ones to have to enforce parking. A lot of our businesses run very lean staff wise, and it's in my perspective, not the most reasonable request to have them be the ones to call in and determine if someone's been parked too long. I'm just concerned about the implications of that, if that's a long-term solution for us. So I'm wondering if in the future, if we don't see a resolution from this, if we continue to have this issue, can we revisit better enforcement of downtown? I mean, I like this step to see if education helps, but I feel like we did that about 2 years ago too, and it seems to not be solving the problem. So is there a possibility that we can revisit this in 3 to 6 months if there's not improvement, and maybe talk about staffing, code enforcement more, having some better enforcement?
Certainly. I think that that's definitely a conversation that we can have, something that we can schedule if we don't see any changes. I think, and you're right that we have had the conversation before. One of the things that we talked about at that time was that it would be possible to put in new signage, but we didn't actually go forward and do that. And I do think, what we have some of the signs and best intentions, certainly, where it literally says 2 hour and it's kind of both ways. And that's great. And then maybe not too much further down the block, it says 20-minute, 2 hour. And so we're kind of giving, maybe there was 3 or 4 different signs downtown. And so having the new signage, I do think will help. But yes, we can certainly revisit. And, okay. With having Carrie part of the conversation, and she always has been part of this conversation, it's funny to me because the way that she talks, she always says, oh, I'm just one person. And so you would think that would mean that she can't or won't give the time. And I find that to be the exact opposite. She's always happy to take a meeting, and she was more than happy to jump at the opportunity to go speak to a business owner. And she she does great outreach in the sense that she talks a little bit about what she does as far as parking goes downtown. So it's not just that we are asking people to call in. It's, if someone was parking in front of your business consistently all day, every day, or you knew that they weren't moving their car, then you could call in. Carrie is aware that there are some constraints downtown. There are also sections of downtown with 2-hour parking that don't have any constraints. So, it might also free up if there's slower places, we can move them to longer term parking or highlight what's used. But Carrie does drive through downtown, pays attention. She's working with the Dahlia right now on some of their residents and outreach there, as well as we're providing it will be different marketing materials to them that will be targeted to the residents, just to help remind them that parking in a 2-hour spot, while that won't probably get you a ticket, it will be parking typically in front of a business, and that can be really harmful to the business climate overall. So yes, I should have said that she is, patrolling and paying attention and trying also to do outreach first before enforcement. But I do think that if this does not clear up in a way that we find to be to the level we'd like, we could definitely reapproach that.
Yeah, thanks. Because I've been talking to a lot of business owners downtown that, they're particularly ones that have retail, restaurant, that type of where the customer being able to get in and out quickly is maybe a little bit different than some of our service businesses. And there is a legitimate concern about how it impacts, customers getting to their business and whether or not people stop or decide not to stop. And so if we can just revisit this in a few months, that would be great. I'd love to go back and talk to some of the businesses and see if there was improvement. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, Calvin will be going business to business in the downtown commercial district. And, it just gives an opportunity to talk about parking, to remind them where longer term parking is for their customers or for their employees, but also just, it's good to get out in front of our businesses and especially coming out of COVID and coming back to the office. I think that will be a really good thing.
To the point of following up and whatnot, I think follow-up is key. I think we're going to have a distinct difference in terms of traffic and parking downtown here over the summer versus moving into fall and winter. So I think a check back is good. I don't know if necessarily we need to course correct anything unless it's obviously very glaring within that 6 months. But I anticipate, much like, as you said, Councilor Spoon, we've been talking about this, that things ebb and flow. And, we had some significant change and then not a lot. And now we've got a bigger building downtown and there's more activity. So we've seen a shift. And so I think we just got to be cautious that we're not bouncing around like ping pong ball with parking and whatnot. But this, set limits, set a course, stay with it, and then check and adjust, as further down the road. Council.
One other thing I wanted to note that I forgot when I was responding to Councilor Spoon is just that, yes, we did address this 2 years ago. And so it might feel like we're just kind of saying the same thing again, but some of our businesses have changed. Some of those business owners have changed. We've had obviously new development. And so I think that this is an opportunity to get everybody on board with the same messaging, whether they've had a long-standing business or a multi-generational business in town, or if they're new to Canby as well. So I think that there is opportunity, which is interesting when you're talking about parking, to talk about opportunity. But I always look on the bright side, and I think this is a great opportunity for some course correct and some good outreach as well.
Councilor Parker, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, a comment, Brian, and I think you remember this when we hit it 10 years ago. We were doing an outreach where we were saying, "Please don't park in front of businesses." It was pretty effective. I mean, the message got out, but it ran smack dab into human behavior. I was at one business downtown 10 years ago after this public relations campaign, and another business closed across the street, and 4 of the employees each walked to their cars that were parked in front of this other business that was open until 11. So apparently they got the message to not park in front of their own store, but they parked in front of somebody else. In the last 3 months, I've seen 2 service people, one insurance, one attorney, walk out of their building and get into their car right in front of there. So how you handle it, Scott, you run the city, you figure it out. But we want this to be fixed. The only part of it that we have to do with is policy. And that is, my policy is I want businesses to stop complaining about people parking in front of them all day. That's my policy. The other policy, and yes, Carrie was very nice, showing up the other day, great attitude, helping us out and that sort of thing. But the city council itself, the budget committee, cut back her job to have time. And so, there may be a role for us is to provide some additional resources in code enforcement. We're a population of 18,000 on our way to 20,000. We're becoming a bigger city. Part of us doing our jobs in providing livability to the city is having a code enforcement system that is robust enough that continues to preserve this small town feel that we want. So, Jamie and Scott, I don't care how you do it, but if speaking to our better angels doesn't work, and we still find people parking in front of their own business, or even more ironic, parking right in front of backstop, thinking that's going to be a better business choice than parking in front of their own. So you've got my support for this soft approach, but all of us are very good at hearing things from our businesses, and if this doesn't work, we may need to move up to another level. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments for Jamie about parking? The uptown or downtown update. All right. Jamie, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Next on the agenda is a public hearing. Public hearing regarding an appeal, application 21-01 from Edward Radulescu, representing Petronella Donovan of Waterstone Investments, and appealing the Planning Commission's denial of a memory care facility at 1300 South Ivy Street. Applications DR 20-03 /CUP 20-02. Before I get into the public hearing formats and whatnot, it is my understanding that in the preparation of this and bringing this forward, that we do have new information that is going to be presented this evening. Is that correct? Different than what new to us, but was not presented to the Planning Commission. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Mayor.
Okay, so the question then for council is, since there is new information, we do have under this format the ability as the hearing body for this appeal to hear the new information and include that in our deliberations and conversations, and thus a decision. That's part of what we do. Or if we feel that it's new information and we don't want to have that conversation tonight and would rather see that go back to the Planning Commission for them to hear that information and maybe make a different outcome, that is an option as well. I wanted to present that first before we go through the whole hearing format and presentations. Councilor Parker, your hand is up. Yes, sir. You're muted, sir.
Muted, Greg.
We ran into this once before, and I think the council agreed upon this idea, which is we do not want to be, to use judicial terms, we do not want to be a court of de novo review, of having new information brought to us. My vision for what we serve as an appellant of a court of appeals is one that takes a look at process and rules and whether those things were followed. The granularity of parking rules and whether senior citizens don't drive so they don't need parking spots, that is nothing that I want the council to be involved in. We've got a lot on our plate, a lot of moving parts. We are not experts in the development code. And I think the fastest way to resolve this issue is to remand this back to the Planning Commission in order for them to consider the new information and have them make a decision. Mayor, so that we don't violate procedures, would you accept a motion so that we can debate the motion?
I'll accept a motion so we can debate it. Yes.
I would move that we remand this back to the Planning Commission for them to consider the new information.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made by Councilor Parker to remand the appeal back to the Planning Commission to hear the new information and therefore decide on, make a either similar or new decision based on the new information. That has been seconded by Council President Hensley. Any discussion? Councilor Spoon, your hand was up first.
I support the idea or the principle that we're an appellate body and not the original hearing body. We're not as knowledgeable probably or as experienced in discussing our code as Planning Commission is and the granularity of it. Like Greg said, I'm concerned that if we move forward with this now, it might impact our ability to hear an appeal of what Planning Commission would decide to do. So I list my favorite thing to talk about is land use. I'll talk about land use all day, but I do see the value in giving the new information back to Planning Commission and letting them make the decision. And if it comes back to us after that, then you can hear that.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Bangs, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I also support this motion, and I'm glad to hear that Councilor Parker made it. There are almost 400 pages of material in our council packet on this alone, it is way too much for me to be able to make any kind of wise decision on it tonight. I feel terrible. We've got our applicant and all the experts all dressed up and ready to go here, but I don't feel qualified given just the short amount of time we've had digest 400 pages of text and then to try and make some kind of wise decision. I'd much rather have the planning committee experts take care of this.
Okay. Councilor Barwick.
Yeah, I too support remanding it back to the Planning Commission. I think that with new information that they haven't heard, it would be unwise for us to make the decision to overturn their decision based on information they didn't know. So I think that we deserve, or they deserve, the opportunity to rehear it with the new information and make sure that they make the decision.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Tibbles?
I will just add that I'm in support for all the reasons that everyone else said so that we kind of have a clear understanding of where we all lie. I think that leaning on the experts who are really into the granularity of this project makes the most sense, especially because we would be making a judgment on information that they didn't even get. So that doesn't make any sense to me either. So I'm in support.
I think we're ready to vote.
Okay, so motion is to remand it back to the Planning Commission. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion to remand this back to the Planning Commission for them to hear the new information and make a decision on passes 6-0. Thank you, staff, and to the applicants. Thank you for coming down, and hopefully we'll get this corrected and on track. So thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I first need to advise that there's a change to the consent agenda, as we will not be reappointing Tom Rushton to the Traffic Safety Commission. So that is an open seat coming up. He has tendered his resignation today. So with that, I move to approve the consent agenda that includes the minutes of the May 5th, 2021 City Council regular meeting, reappointments to the Bike and Pedestrian Committee, Clifford Ash, Michael Remelstrand, and Bruce Parker, reappointments to the Budget Committee, Andrea McCracken and Bob Patterson, reappointments to the Heritage and Landmark Commission, Karina Cannon and Rachel Swanson, reappointments to the Park and Rec Advisory Board, David Biscar, Jean Davis, Terry Jones, and Barbara Camel, and reappointments to the Traffic Safety Commission, Deanna Ball-Carb and Clint Coleman, all for 3-year terms that will expire on 6/30/2024.
I will second.
Motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Varway to approve the consent agenda, which include the minutes of the May 5th, 2021 City Council regular meeting, reappointments to the Bike and Pedestrian Committee, Clifford Ash, Michael Hemmelstrand, and Bruce Parker, reappointments to the Budget Committee, Andrea McCracken and Bob Patterson, reappointments to the Heritage and Landmark Commission, Karina Cannon and Rachel Swanson, and reappointments to the Park and Recreation Advisory Board, David Biscar, Jim Davis, Terry Jones, and Barbara Carmel. And then finally, reappointments to the Traffic Safety Commission, Deanna Ball-Carb and Clint Coleman, all for 3-year terms that will expire on 6/30/2024. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Anyone opposed? That carries 6-0. Next on the agenda this evening, we're going to move into resolutions and ordinances. The first resolution this evening is resolution number 1349, a resolution requesting Clackamas County to surrender jurisdiction of North Locust Street, North Maple Street, and South Redwood in the Camby city limits. And Scott, I will let you expand on that.
Thank you, Mayor Hodson. Yes, this is a follow-on action to your prior actions that you've taken to move the process forward of the county road transfers to the city. The previous actions that you approved enacted our agreement with Clackamas County that set in motion the transfer of the funds from the county to the city, which is a big part of this. Receiving the roads is also receiving some of the funds to bring those up to city standards. This resolution before you this evening is another action that's required as part of this process with the county. And this essentially initiates the actual transfer of the roads to the city. So the prior actions were more about the funding being paid to the city, and this is actually moving forward on the roads being transferred. We've discussed this in fairly good detail previously, so I won't go through all of the roads and all of the details of that. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer that. And actually, Mr. Nelzine is present as well and can help answer any questions. But really, this is just another formality in that continued process of moving to get the roads transferred to the city.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move to approve Resolution 1349, a resolution requesting Clackamas County to surrender jurisdiction of North Locust Street, North Maple Street, and South Redwood in the city limits of Camby.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Council President Hensley, seconded by Councilor Tibbles to approve Resolution 1349. Resolution requesting Clackamas County to surrender jurisdiction of North Locust Street, North Maple Street, and South Redwood in the Canby city limits. Any discussion? I will just add that I'm glad that, again, another piece to this puzzle is being completed and moved forward. As we had our work session today, this is paramount for us and has been for, I think, for Councilor Parker and Councilor Hensley and I for close to 10 years to get this moved along. So thank you, Scott, and staff for getting us another step closer. Seeing no other comments or discussion, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries 6-0. Next on the agenda is Resolution 1356, a resolution for truthful communications from council and the mayor. Scott, is this, I'll put this for you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, this was requested. This was requested by members of the council and then conferred with the mayor that this would be placed on the agenda. So I'll actually, Councilor Spoon made the original request. So I'll defer to you, Councilor Spoon, to speak to the resolution. There is no staff report. This is a late addition. So I'll have to defer to Councilor Spoon, if that's all right, on the resolution.
Sure.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I apologize. It wasn't intended to be a late addition. It was submitted well over over a week ago. It was put on the agenda late, but it was not submitted so late. It was intended to be given with plenty of time for people to read and come and speak on it. This is not intended to be any sort of scolding or punitive. I don't think there's any other action necessary, like that was spoken to by some of our citizens. It's really just intended to set the tone, because while we have a code of conduct and we have values that say that we ought to be honest, there's really no standard for what that looks like when it comes to the materials we vote on and what we present to the community as a statement on their behalf, which is what the resolution 2 meetings ago was. And so it's really just intended to say, if we're going to pass some sort of legislation, policy, or resolution that is a statement on behalf of the city of Canby or on behalf of citizens, and we say that there's some documentation, or we present things as facts, that in all efforts of honesty and transparency, that information ought to be available to the citizens. That information really ought to be presented at the time the resolution's presented. And so, after the meeting a few weeks ago, I encountered a lot of people that had lost public trust. And I agreed to the extent that if we're going to say that something is a fact, that something is well documented, that ought to be available to the citizens. And I know one of the citizens that spoke earlier actually had to do a Freedom of Information Act request to try and get some of the information spoken about in the resolution a month ago, and was ultimately told that there was no public record on it. I had also been asking for the information since the day after the meeting and just received a portion of it this morning. So it's just an effort to ensure that we retain that public trust and we don't state things as facts that are not facts. And if we're saying they're facts and something's documented, that we have that information to provide. And it's obviously non-binding. I think it's something that we can all agree is important as we try and hold public trust. Not intended to be punitive or anything else, just really an agreement that this is how we will conduct, passing policies and making statements on behalf of citizens. So that's kind of where it comes from. I have some additional statistics if people have concerns about what was true and what isn't true, but O'Brien sent some out earlier. So that's kind of where it came from, and it's just kind of an agreement that we should all provide data for things that we say are verifiable data.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion for the resolution? Councilor Banks?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will move the resolution number 1356, a resolution for truthful communications from council and the mayor.
And I'll second that, Mayor.
Motion has been made to approve resolution 1356 by Councilor Bangs, a resolution for truthful communications from the council and the mayor, and seconded by Councilor Parker. Any discussion? Councilor Tibbles?
Just point of order, so we don't kind of run into the same situation we were in last time. We had questions that kind of melded into discussion last time that led to some interruptions and people were upset. So is this the appropriate time? Are we going to be doing questions and discussion at this time?
Sorry, yes. If you have questions about the resolution, then by all means ask them and we can have discussion as well.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I guess my question would obviously be directed at Councilor Spoon because she brought forth the resolution. And you know, I'm new to City Council, so I know that you've been on for a longer time than I have. So I just wanted to know kind of your input. Do you think this is an ongoing issue or challenge that councils either now or in the past have ran into? Is this something that, or is this really in response to a resolution that you weren't in favor of, with some of the information not being as verifiable as you'd like? I just want to know if this is something like that has any historical, I guess, challenge with it or ongoing challenge with it.
Yeah, I'll give you two thoughts on that. Typically, when things come to us, they have documentation. So you see our packet, for example, every time we run into a land use, it's going to be hundreds of pages long. This is the first time in my time on council that I've seen a resolution that claimed to have documentation. So it was the first time in my experience that something said there was documentation associated with it where we were not provided with the documentation and the public was not presented with the documentation. So I don't experience it as an ongoing issue. The reason that I'm bringing it up is not, like I said, to be punitive or to scold, but to say that that's really not the way we should operate, and let's not do it again. If we're going to say that something's documented, let's provide documentation like we do with everything else we address on council. You know, that's the reason we have packets. So there's nothing personal about it. I just found that the public was a little averse to feeling like they had to continually ask what that documentation is. If we're going to say that something's documented, we should provide that documentation. And so that's really where it comes from. I've not experienced it as an ongoing issue. I've only experienced that documentation is provided, which is why I assumed that was the standard, but found out there was really no standard for that. So it's really to kind of cut it off at the pass to make sure that this doesn't happen for our citizens again.
Thank you, Jordan. Any other, Councilor Hensley, were you waving your hand?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that you did your best with that resolution. I also believe that you did give us the documentation, the data points that were needed in our email that you sent out. And I feel that this resolution is redundant given that it's already in the second stanza of our values and goals, that we are to be held to the highest standards of honesty and ethical conduct. So I feel that this is just another step in the misbehaviors that we you know what, Mr. Mayor, can we just get back to the business of the city, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Spoon, your hand's up again.
Yeah, I think that providing documentation with stuff is the business of the city, especially as elected officials. The reason I don't think it's redundant, I already said, is that while values say that we have to be honest, it says nothing about transparency in terms of providing information to the citizens that we claim exists. So it's not redundant because that's not something that our values address. But also our goals also say that we're going to help businesses, which would make the resolution a month ago redundant. I mean, it's like there is a lot of redundancy in government. And so I don't, this is not, I'm just surprised that you would respond that way to something that I think we can all agree on. It's really to help us all and to help our citizens get the information that they, in my opinion, are entitled to.
Councilor Tibbles?
Yeah, I guess the comment that I would have is, I perceive it, and I think that I wouldn't be alone if you took it to the citizens of Canby, that it's a backhanded way of calling the mayor and the council who supported it liars. That's my perception. You might not mean it that way. I'm just saying that I believe that I'm probably not alone in that. And one thing that resonated with me that Mrs. Tate said in the call was that she's ready for us to work together. And so I don't think necessarily saying, okay, I didn't agree with this resolution. You said yourself that's not an ongoing issue that you've experienced both in this term or last term. That, the counter to that is another resolution that, is perceived by me and probably by others as calling anyone who agreed with it a liar. So I would propose, I think it makes more sense in the spirit of working together, that if there were issues with that resolution, that we work on it together as a council, and the issues that you had that were factually incorrect or whatever those would be, that we submit those and we reopen the resolution. And then we take those things out so that we as a council can be united in standing for business owners. And I think that that's a true compromise that I would love to see other people's feedback on that approach.
Councillor Varwig.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan. No, you wouldn't feel alone in that. I feel the same way. I look at the words of this resolution, and I think there's some wonderful words in it. But we also have a really great council policies and guidelines and all of that. I don't see how this resolution forces us to do anything different than our council policies and guidelines does. I think it's important to make it clear, because I've heard the comment a couple of times that, a group of councilors got together and crafted a resolution last time, and that's false information. We didn't get together and craft it. I was not in part of it, forming any of the words of the last resolution. So that's out there. Is false information. That resolution was crafted by I believe the mayor and the city attorney. From my understanding, I was just in favor of having a resolution. I want to take some of the words of wisdom from our citizens that spoke earlier, who cautioned us against taking action too quickly. This resolution, I saw at 4:59 last night. I know that was the complaint of the resolution 2 weeks ago, was that there just wasn't enough time to consider it. And because there was not enough time to consider this one either, I can't be in support of this one either. So I would be in support of reopening the last resolution, having some discussion on it. Hindsight is always 20/20. I wish that, thinking back, I think we could have handled it a little bit differently. And I think that it would have been great if we had some more discussion on it. But I don't regret my decision to vote for it. It was in support of the businesses. The spirit of the resolution was what I voted on. Not necessarily the exact words, but I'm just not going to be in support of this one tonight, just because I haven't had time to consider it. I've had a busy day at work today, and I read my packet last week. So getting this last evening, I just haven't had time to spend a whole lot of time on it. So I'm just not in favor of it tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Parker, and then Councillor Spoon.
Well, I had something else to say, but with Councillor Varwig's comments saying that this was presented to him too soon, it echoes the complaint that if you feel that way tonight, why didn't you feel that way 2 weeks ago? And as to Councillor Tibble's comment about reopening the discussion, I can't in my mind wrap around the idea that you think you stand behind what you said, but you're willing to take stuff out that was wrong. And if you remember, several of us said, let's work on it right here, right now. Let's wordsmith this stuff. And I did research the foreclosure information. Foreclosures are down 37%. So a resolution was passed that was factually incorrect. Now, to Council President Hensley's point, that we already have language that prevents us from doing what we did. Well, think about those words. If we have language against what we did, apparently it wasn't clear enough to keep us from doing what we did. It's a simple request that this sort of thing doesn't happen again, that we go through staff, and that anything that is presented as fact is vetted by city staff. That's all.
Councilor Spoon and Councilor Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I mean, it's a month ago when we were discussing the previous resolution, I know Councilor Banks multiple times said, maybe we can take this out because it's not true. And I, at the end, offered a compromise that we all work together to write a factual resolution from us that represents the city of Canby, and no one wanted to do it then. It's incredibly frustrating to suddenly hear that what we need to do is work together because that's what we were trying to do. And when that was denied to us, the opportunity to work together, I just want to make sure, like Councilor Parker said, if this is already addressed in our code of conduct and our values, then it shouldn't have happened. But it did happen. So now I feel like it should be addressed so that it doesn't happen again. It's like there's no ulterior motive. I literally just want, if people say something is documented and factually true, we should be able to demonstrate that with the documentation that was alluded to. And it's frustrating to hear that suddenly everyone wants to work together on something that we begged you to work together on a month ago. And again, it being a late addition to the agenda was not because it was submitted late. It's because it was added to the agenda late. It was submitted over a week ago. So there's nothing in here that needs to be fact checked, which is for me the difference between a month ago and now, that I felt like we needed time to fact check things. In regards to whether or not the documentation was provided to us, Council President Hensley, some of it was today, not all of it was, but what that documentation demonstrated is that burglaries are up 12, thefts are exactly the same, and domestic violence is down, and thefts are actually on trend to be down again this year. It didn't demonstrate a significant increase, a well-documented significant increase in crimes of desperation. They don't account for bankruptcies by zip code, but I went to the U.S. bankruptcy court's data, and bankruptcies are actually down both in business and in personal, 44.6% in Clackamas County from 19 to 20 and 20 to 21. So to say that documentation was later provided to us is just not accurate, which is exactly the problem I have, that we should be dealing with facts if we're going to say something is a fact. If we're going to say that something's well documented, we should be dealing with those documents. And that just wasn't done. And the idea that our current values prevent us from doing it was proven wrong because it wasn't done. So to me, it's just an agreement moving forward. There's no ulterior motive. Let's just make an agreement as a council. I'm not trying to relitigate anything. Let's make an agreement as a council that moving forward, if we're going to say something's well documented and true, that we provide that documentation to each other like we do for every other thing in the packet and on the agenda.
Councilor Hensley and then Councilor Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm frustrated as well because I've had conversations with multiple counselors since that meeting. And Councilor Parker, I'm a little disappointed because you were in favor of cracking open that resolution and reworking it. And now you're telling me you're not. So I'm disappointed in that. I actually started working on a revised version of the resolution, and until all this started, I did submit it to the mayor as a seed for everybody to see. I would be in favor. Thank you, Councilor Tibbles, for bringing that up. I would be in favor of reworking that. I just really want this tit for tat attacks on each other to stop, and it needs to stop now.
Councilor Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I appreciate a number of your comments here tonight, including Councilor Tibble's request, or perhaps it was Varwig. This has gone on a while, and I have a hard time tracking it. Request that you have enough time to read it. I think that's essential. I think that was a major flaw with the resolution that we looked at before. I do maintain that there were multiple parts that were not true in that last resolution. But I prefer to move on. Like I don't really need to open up that old wounds. Our businesses are open now, so to have another fight over that same resolution doesn't seem to advance the city's interests at this point, because the governor did what she said she would do and lifted all the restrictions 2 days after we passed that resolution. I do believe there's some inconsistencies in the message, but I want to move forward. And if it takes you 2 more weeks to decide whether or not we should be honest and truthful in our resolutions, I have no problem with that. I think that's fine. And so if that's the will of the council, I'll go along with that. I don't know what the procedure is if you want to table it, but I would like to see it up on the agenda in 2 weeks if we do. There is a motion on the table. Could we, there's a motion to pass. Can we amend that motion or table it in the middle of that motion?
Mr. Mayor, call for the question.
Okay. So the question is, or the motion's been made to approve ordinance 1356. It was made by Councilor Bangs and seconded by Councilor Parker. Question has been called. All those in favor?
I think that's how parliamentary procedure calls. Doesn't there have to be a plurality of council if the question's called?
You have to have
a question.
You have to have a vote to end debate. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just clarifying that. Yeah, you can't just call for the question and then.
Okay, so the question's been called. Is there a second to end debate?
No.
Barwick said yes.
So there's a second to end debate and move for the vote. All those in favor of ending discussion? All those opposed to ending discussion? I'm always have been one to allow conversation to occur and for counselors to say their piece. So I will vote that we not end the debate. And I've got Councilor Bangs. Is there anything else you wanted to add? Your hand was still up.
No, only that I'm willing to go along with a 2-week table if that's what the will of the council is. But I don't know what the procedure would be to add that in the middle of a motion.
It would have to be a matter of my understanding, and that's Joe, I see you there in the background, is that would have to be rescinding the motion and then amending it, or is that correct, Joe? You all are muted there at City Hall.
You don't have to rescind it. You can amend it, but this person who made the second has to second the amendment.
If you move to table it, you could table it to a date certain if you want. It would take a first and a second and a majority vote.
Okay, well, I'm going to echo Councilor Bangs. Like, you know, we have a motion here on the table. We have a resolution here. You know, decide and move on. But that's not my call. That's just my opinion. So that's out there. Councilor Spoon.
Yeah, if I know Councilor Varwig said that he would vote, he was intending to vote against it because he hadn't had time. I mean, I assume we can just set the standard that we provide documentation and move on. But if Councilor Varwig feels better having more time to read it, I'll certainly support that. I think that we can probably just, I mean, if that's the barrier between where he is and feeling like he can vote on it well informed, which is what he seemed to say, then I would support that. We can also just vote tonight. But I will say, like, one of my concerns is that, you know, there's been a lot of projection of intent here. And that's actually something that our council code of conduct says that we shouldn't do is assume intent or project intent or whatnot. And there is no ill will or malintent in here. I spent weeks trying to get information. I didn't get it. And I just thought, why don't we just all agree that moving forward, we can handle things differently. It's actually, oddly enough, an attempt to get us all on the same page moving forward. And the fact that you guys perceived it as ill-intended is not only a violation of our code of conduct, but it's just not true. Any one of you could have called me. You could have asked me what my intent was. calling it a tit for tat or whatnot is the exact opposite of what it is. It's really saying, let's all agree that this is the way that we're going to conduct resolutions, ordinances, and claims that should be verifiable. And it's unfortunate that you guys have projected intent on that, but oddly enough, it's actually an effort to get us on the same page moving forward. So we don't have a repeat of a month ago. So we don't have frustrated people saying, where's this information? What's that can devolve into a less than pleasant conversation. Weirdly, I did not think that so many people would object to having a standard that we provide documentation when we say it's available. It's actually kind of concerning to me, to be honest, but you're all at where you're at and I'm at where I'm at. So yeah, that's.
Councillor Parker, then Councillor Tibbles.
Yeah, I think we're headed for another 3-3 vote, and you get to decide what this one is. Well, Mayor, but since Councillor Hensley brought up my name, let me confirm that I did say what she said I said, is that I was prepared to go in and rework this resolution. And I said, when will we see it? And you said, in 2 weeks. So I don't have a chance to rework it tonight. I'm still willing to rework it. And here's the ironic thing. The fact that we have several councilors saying, we're willing to go in and take out untrue things that we voted for shows that we actually do need a resolution saying, we're not going to do this again. I mean, if you are comfortable with the vote that you took last time and you think everything is truthful, then why isn't your position, I don't want to touch it? You know, by the very fact that we have people who are willing to go in and rework this resolution is an admission that half of the council did vote for something that had information that was not documented. When the mayor did send us a few things today, he said he got this after the resolution was written. So the information was not developed beforehand. We're asking that next time we're faced with this situation, we have the information vetted and prepared in advance.
Councillor Tibbles and then Councillor Hensley.
I just want to first comment on Councillor Parker's regards. I don't think anyone here has said that, or at least I didn't, I'll speak for myself. I said that in the spirit of working together, and I recognized that the language was not well received by half of the council, and I am sick of having these split council blow-ups like we did, that I would be willing to sit down and work like I believe we could have done in the first place, and I think things could have been done better, to have you part of that process. That doesn't mean that I'm saying, walking away and saying, it's an admission that I actually don't believe what it says. It means if there's language that you're uncomfortable with, I think that I owe it to the citizens and to myself to hear you out on that. And I'm willing to do it because that's what I want to do going forward. That is not, I just don't want those words to be misconstrued as me saying, I don't stand behind my vote and I don't stand behind what it said. I'm willing to sit down and have, I'm happy. And Councilor Spoon, I'll take you up on that. I will have copy with you to talk about the spirit of this resolution. I think that in order for us to move forward, we need to be willing to do that. So I just needed to correct that because it was not an admission. All of a sudden, I don't stand behind my vote, as Councilor Parker was alluding to. And I will take you up on that, Councilor Spoon. I think if everyone can get there, it sounds like we might even be able to get there if we just get this 2 weeks and table it. If that's what it's going to be for us to work together, like, for crying out loud, let's do it.
And Jordan, we chatted before Jordan went on vacation, and we agreed we'd have coffee, and I'm looking forward to doing it. And I think that that's how we get, to where we're headed.
Councillor Hensley and then Councillor Varwick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I still stand behind my vote from the last meeting on the resolution. It is unfortunate the staff didn't have the time to verify data completely as far as it is to Camby. I still believe that there is a rise in mental health issues, a rise in domestic violence, a rise in suicides, maybe not in Camby proper. But these things are happening, absolutely. I hear about it every day, and I'm not going to argue about it it is fact. And I stand by my vote. I believe that the facts were as true as they could have been in the short amount of time that Joe had to get that resolution put together. And the mayor has worked on it since, getting out those data points to you. And I don't want to keep doing this every 2 weeks. So I'm against this resolution because we already have those standards and values. This is an unfortunate situation that happened that you guys didn't agree with parts of the resolution. I've had conversations with you all. We've talked about reworking it. I'm for reworking it and taking out some of the language that might have been objectionable to you and repassing it. And I don't know what else to say other than I really just want this to stop and get back to just, let's talk about sludge and sewage again.
Councilor Varwig, then Councilor Bangs.
Yeah, shout out to all the other councils who have their popcorn popped watching us sing. I'm glad that it's not us. I'm really getting frustrated with my words being twisted all the time, and frankly feeling attacked when I have an opinion. And I said I got this at 4:59 last night. Whether it was intended to come out a week ago, it came out at 4:59 last night. I haven't had time to read through it, and I want to heed the advice of our citizens who spoke earlier, who said, don't act too quickly on these resolutions. They said we acted too quickly last time. I'm taking that advice. Maybe we did. And so, I am asking whoever made the motion, I would love if you would consider amending it to give us a couple more weeks so that we can talk about it. Maybe we can combine the two resolutions together and come up with something that we're all happy with. Whether, we wanted to do that last time or not, here we are asking for the opportunity and we're being attacked for that. So we didn't last time, but here we are this time saying, you know what, maybe you were right. Let's take some time and talk through it. So I'm begging whoever made the motion, please to consider amending it to give us a couple more weeks so that we can talk about it, so we can end this back and forth personal attacks against each other and move forward in a healthy way.
I'm going to chime in here before you speak, Councilor Bangs, real quick. Us reworking this in 2 weeks, I don't, or combining the two, or rehashing this, I think I'm going to trust Councilor Spoon that what she's asking for is what it is. I think 2 more weeks or 4 more weeks of trying to rehash this and wordsmith it even more continues us not doing what we need to do, as Councilor Hensley stated, and what we had community input on. Resolution 1347 from a month ago, and here we are, we're talking about it. Okay, so if I was hasty in it, then okay, then great, lesson learned, and to not be so hasty. Fine, we got to move on. Our staff does not have time to try to meld these two together, or to put a ad hoc committee together of counselors, which will just be I believe, a microcosm of this conversation. Okay, so I don't think tabling it changes anything. I think we have a motion on the table. I say we take it in its purest intent. If that's truly what her intent is, then we do that. I think we are. We've got stuff to do, gang. So that's my piece. Councilor Bangs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with you that I do not want to relitigate or re-argue the previous resolution. That's water under the bridge. And I will honor Councillor Barwig's request to extend this 2 minutes by amending my motion to put it on the agenda at our next meeting.
So you're amending your motion to put this particular resolution on the next agenda for conversation.
Well, I'm moving to amend it.
Okay.
That's my motion, to table this for 2 weeks. Is that right? It's 2 weeks. This is the first meeting in June, right? 2 weeks.
Councillor Parker, do you accept the amended motion?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Councillor Barber, you're waving your hand.
Yeah, you made a really good point, Mr. Mayor, and I'm going to eat crow a little bit here and just say that if we are going to move forward in a healthy way, we do need to put some trust in each other. And having had some recent conversations with Councillor Spoon, I do think that she probably does mean the best by this resolution. So I appreciate you entertaining that, Councillor Banks. If you choose not to, I'll go ahead and go along with this just for the spirit of it. I just read through it again 3 times just to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. I don't see anything glaring that I can't get past. So.
Councillor Tibbles and Councillor Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, well, I stand by what I said, but I do want to make the distinction where I say I perceived it a certain way, but I realize that might not be your intent, and other people could perceive it that way. I remember our conversation at Backstop, and when we talked about how actually we might see things differently politically, and it was after you came to the governor, potential governor candidate's speech, and we were saying how much we actually agree. So I think that in the spirit of that, and in the spirit of us having that conversation, I can take it at face value that your intentions are well on this, and I can get behind it, and I'm happy to meet you there, and I still will take you up on that copy.
Councillor Banks.
Then I withdraw my amendment to table the motion for 2 weeks and would like us to vote on the resolution 13 something, as I had previously said.
1356. And Councillor Parker, do you agree with me?
Yes.
Okay. I still have hands up. Councillor Hensley. So motion's been made again for approval of resolution number 1356 by Councillor Banks, seconded by Councillor Parker. Councillor Hensley, Spoon, and then Varwig.
I still, you know what? I can count to 4, and I want this to end. It's 9 o'clock, and we still have a lot of agenda to go. So let's put this water under the bridge, shall we?
Okay. Councillor Spoon. Here.
I took my hand down, but not mute. No, I just wanted to tell Councillor Tibbles and Councillor Barwig how much I appreciate the trust. I mean, I know that the culture of our country right now doesn't make it easy to try and see eye to eye, but I believe that we all have good intent here, and I appreciate you accepting my intent at face value. I think it really helps us work together as a council, and I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate that. Yeah.
Councillor Barwig.
Yeah, just one last thing is just to say, I hope that we can learn something from this conversation tonight, and that we all are very passionate about Camby. We all love Camby a whole lot. And I think that we've all misunderstood each other long enough, and I hope that we can move forward on future business, trying to understand intent of the meaning behind things instead of believing that it's. I'm not smart enough to know what I'm really trying to say, but I think we all expect that the other side is going to come at us, and I think that if we can just stop thinking that way and realize that we all love Canby, and we just might get there on a different route. That's okay sometimes, and let's move forward kindly with each other.
Any other discussion? We done with debate? Okay, all those in favor of passing resolution 1356? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Anyone opposed? That motion carries 6-0. Next on the agenda is considering ordinance number 1556, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a collective bargaining agreement, CBA, between the city of Canby, Oregon and local 350-6 AFSCME Council 75 AFL-CIO. Second reading. Scott, you want to fill us in or remind us of this one?
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is, yes, again, a second reading. This is to enter into a new 4-year agreement with our AFSCME bargaining group. It was a very collegial and cooperative process. I want to reemphasize that again. Joe gave you the report last time, but really, I think an exemplary manner in which the parties reached this agreement and in such a quick amount of time. So very pleased about that. And I think it's just a reflection of the good working relationship in the city. So with that, no additional information. Again, just asking for your approval of second reading.
Great.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance 1556, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a collective bargaining agreement between the city of Camby and local 350-6 AFSCME Council 75 AFL-CIO.
Thank you, sir. There's a second. Councilor Spoon, I think I saw your hand wave across the screen. Motion's been made by Councilor Varwig and seconded by Councilor Spoon to approve ordinance number 1556, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to enter into a collective bargaining agreement between the city of Canby, Oregon and local 350-6 AFSCME Council 75 AFL-CIO. Roll call vote.
Councilor Banks,
Aye.
Council President Hensley,
Aye.
Councilor Parker,
Aye.
Councilor Spoon,
Aye.
Councilor Tibbles,
Aye.
Councilor Varwig.
Aye.
That motion carries 6-0. Next on the agenda is ordinance, considering ordinance number 1557, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to purchase one transit van for Camby Area Transit from Shechke Northwest Sales of Portland, Oregon, and this is also a second reading. Scott.
Mr. Mayor, no additional information from last time. Mr. Wood, our transit director, gave you a full report on this purchase. So just ask for your approval.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance 1557, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to purchase one vehicle for Canby Area Transit from Shechke Northwest Bus Sales of Portland, Oregon.
Motion's been made by Councilor Varwig to approve ordinance number 1557, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to purchase one transit van for Canby Area Transit from Shechke Northwest Sales of Portland, Oregon. Seconded by Council President Hensley. Roll call vote.
Councilor Banks,
Aye.
Council President Hensley,
Aye.
Councilor Parker,
Aye.
Councilor Spoon,
Aye.
Councilor Tibbles,
Aye.
Councilor Varwig.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. New business this evening is a discussion regarding the noise ordinance exceptions. I want to thank Councilor Banks for bringing this forward. There was some conversation back and forth about right now, I think in the noise ordinance, we have exceptions for the city of Camby, for the county/fairgrounds. And so the question was posed to discuss looking at extending that, I believe, to the high school based on prior years beyond the football games, but also to include perhaps the graduation. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Councilor Bangs, to elaborate or correct my introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, that is correct. Is it possible I can share the screen? No, actually, you know what? I can put it in the chat. This right here, which I've just put in the chat. Can you guys see that, or I hit return first? There we go. This is the amendment I am proposing that we pass. It is in our city code 9.48.050 under exceptions and variances. You can see that we currently have permission from the city to shoot fireworks off during football games, which we've done at least the 20 years I've lived here. I propose to add the phrase "and graduation," which we've also been doing for years after the word games. So my proposal would be to sounds produced by sound amplifying equipment at activities, including fireworks and other explosive devices at football games and graduation. I do believe our school principal is here to speak on this issue, but I can tell you that we've been doing the fireworks already at graduation for as many years as I can remember. So this is simply legalizing and creating a de jure recognition of what we've been doing already.
Yeah, so thanks, Councilor Banks. So it's not anything that necessarily is a decision this evening, but it's more of a conversation if we want to add that language and then to have staff bring this back with the added language for us to approve the new language in the ordinance, therefore updating it with what's just proposed. Before I unleash the counselors, yes, as Councilor Banks said, Principal Greg Dinza is here or online to speak to this as well. Good evening, Principal Dinza. How are you?
Very well, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Well, that's a loaded question, sir. I will say congratulations. It sounds like you have a new boss.
Yes, just moments ago, the board voted to extend an offer to Aaron Downs, Dr. Aaron Downs of Westland Wilsonville School District. He'll be, I hope, joining us as our new superintendent. So that's very exciting news.
And there goes my school board report.
Well, Mr. Bangs, give me an opportunity to steal the stage. I'll take advantage of that.
Well, that's good news. So, Principal Dins, if you wanted to speak to the fireworks piece for, I think it's the addition of including graduation into our verbiage. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I want to thank Councilor Bangs for bringing this up and I think formalizing this event that we do every year. So traditionally, as Councilor Bangs said, we do light off fireworks during our football games. And the only other regular event that we do is at graduation. That's one of the culminating parts of the evening for our graduates as we finish up. So it's wonderful that he is taking this initiative to formalize this and just put this into writing. And we hope that the board considers it and passes it because this is an annual tradition for our students. And we'd like to, as I said, just make sure that's formally accepted and we can continue to move forward with this.
Great. Well, thank you for dialing in this evening. We appreciate it. Yeah, good luck with your new boss. Hope we can close the deal.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So clarification or conversation pieces regarding this. Councilor Spoon, your hand is up.
Yeah, out of respect for long time ongoing conversation we're having, did anyone reach out to Paul to let him know we'd be talking about this tonight?
That I'm not aware of.
That's kind of disappointing. I mean, there's no way you could tell from the agenda that it would be about the issue he's come to us repeatedly about. So it would have been nice to engage him in this conversation. I think we owe that to him, to be honest. I think that I like the fireworks myself. I don't live too far from Paul. They are loud. I enjoy them. I know that not everyone in our neighborhood in the surrounding area does. I know that it's actually a protected area for noise, and this isn't exactly consistent with that. And I empathize with that. I can get behind codifying this for graduation. My ask would be that in cooperation with this and to be good partners, as we've given them exceptions we give to really almost no one else, it would be nice if the school would make the effort to inform, maybe on an annual basis, the neighbors that would normally be informed of what the dates of the home football games and the graduation are, just so that they have that. Not all of them use the internet, I know, in living here. So I think that would be a nice effort in conjunction with codifying this. And if there's cooperation in that way, I could get behind that. But I just really wish that we had engaged Paul if this was the conversation, because I think Paul's made an effort to stay engaged on the topic. So I'm a little disappointed we didn't do that, but I can get behind supporting this. My hope is that we can ask the school to be a partner with us and actually inform the neighbors of the dates and times of these events. I know that this year with graduation, we didn't know if we could have graduation, and if so, what it would look like and when it would be. So I know this year was an extra challenge, and I'm not concerned as much about this year. But I think that being a good neighbor, considering we've been given petitions by groups of neighbors, we've had people come, asking them to be a good neighbor would be, I think, a nice partnership on this.
Councilor Spoon, I don't disagree. I did not necessarily press about reaching out to Paul because this was just a conversation about even us moving forward with changing the language. If in fact that's what we want to do and have that as an agenda item for conversation at the next meeting, because this is just I wanted to. I thought Councilor Banks's piece of bringing this forward was worthy of conversation, because that is something that we as a group have talked about before regarding graduation, and even at one point there was conversation about not including the school and football games in at all and making them come and ask, much like the Wild Hare did a couple of weeks ago, and just ask for a slate of dates. So if our desire as a group is to open that ordinance up for conversation, then absolutely, I think that we would extend an invitation to Paul.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I must have misunderstood what we were doing because it was under new business. I didn't know if we were voting on it. So we're just having a conversation about whether we're willing to have a conversation. This is a meeting to talk about planning another meeting. Oh, I love it. Then I think that it's appropriate that we open it up, because they've been doing fireworks at graduation, whether they were authorized to or not. So it's worthy of a conversation to have, and it needs to be opened and discussed. But I just would ask that city engage Paul and invite him and give him plenty of time, because I think that would be an appropriate action on our part, given his continued conversation.
Okay. Councilor Hensley, and then Councilor Banks.
Yeah, I wasn't terribly concerned that we didn't reach out to Paul this time, just because I knew it was a conversation about whether or not we wanted to do anything. I do expect that he will be at any future meeting that we talk about this, if we actually get it to ordinance form. I'm also fine with the fireworks. It's been tradition for years and years that, beyond half the neighborhood moved in there. But I will agree with Councilor Spoon that I believe that the school district can make efforts in being a good neighbor and publishing, even if they just walk a flyer around to the neighborhood and with the published dates of those firework events, so that people can plan if they don't want to hear them.
Okay. Councilor Bangs and then Councilor Varwig.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with both Councilors Hensley and Spoon that the school. Well, so I have a little bit of information here. First, I did request that we put this ordinance on the agenda, and it evolved into a discussion item. The school had looked into getting the proper variance for the noise ordinance to shoot them off this year, but the decision to have graduation outside was made after the ability for us to pull that off in the timeline given. I also suggested that we reach out to Paul for the very same reasons that you expressed. The school, and I don't think that Principal Dinza is allowed to just participate in this. So he's already agreed that we can post the dates for all the football games and graduation on the school calendar and deliver notes to the neighbors that have all those dates and specify that. I think that the school is in perfect agreement with that too. I will also finally add that this is really a demonstration of Western Fireworks, which is based in Canby and is the largest distributor of fireworks. They get all of the fire marshal permits. So they've done all the permitting for many years now. They showcase their events here at the high school football games. We are the only high school that I'm aware of that does this, but we're also the only town that hosts Western Fireworks. So those are all just extra pieces of information that I wanted to give you all.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Varwick.
Yeah, as a neighbor in the neighborhood, about a block and a half away from the high school where the fireworks are lit off, I absolutely sympathize with Paul, but I also love the fireworks. I love watching them from my driveway. So this is an invitation on graduation night. Come over to my house, we'll watch fireworks. But I absolutely want to open this for discussion. I do think we need to include it. I love the fireworks during the football games. I think that it's really encouraging for kids. My school didn't do it, and we lost all of our football games. So maybe there's some correlation there. So keep them going. But yeah, I definitely want to have the conversation. I think that the bright stadium lights are more intrusive on my house than the fireworks. So can we turn those off before 10 o'clock p.m.? That would be great.
Thank you. Councilor Parker?
Chris, did you say that we are going to have some fireworks coming up soon before we have a chance to discuss that? I think that's important to get on the record and get out into the community, that this isn't a theoretical thing happening next year, that it's happening this month.
Yes.
It's happening next Friday. And it has happened every year for graduation forever. So yeah, this is not a theoretical thing, and it is not an increase in what the school has already done, but simply codifying it like we did with the fireworks. I guess for many years, they didn't have the codified permission for the fireworks. I think the fireworks predate the noise ordinance, but I don't know how long it's been happening. I've only lived here since 2001.
Well, Mayor, my point is that a casual observer may look upon us as that we're creating legislation to permit this to happen. In fact, it's going to happen next week. And so I think in as many venues as we can, and Principal Dinsta, thank you for joining us tonight, and of getting that out. I understand the short time frame that it didn't allow us to go through the normal noise exception. Be that as it may, let's make the best of the situation that we're faced with, and have people understand that what we're talking about is codifying something that is practice, but that in fact this practice is going to continue next Friday.
Okay, thank you. So just with nods of I think approval, I'll take first is to. Yes, we're open to adding this to the agenda and adding the language of including graduation in the ordinance, and we will update that at our next earliest convenience. Is that an affirmative across the board? Okay. Scott and Joe, any further input, or you guys are good?
Well, I guess for the purposes because I'm seeing a general consensus that you want to see this particular language come back at your next meeting. Our ordinance process does take 2 readings and then a 30-day absent an emergency. I don't really see an emergency here, but this is not unlike when marijuana legislation passed in a few years back, and then the prosecutions of marijuana stopped before the law actually became active, and it was because the judicial process takes months. And so if you go ticket somebody for an activity, knowing that the law is going to change, oftentimes it will become moot before it gets in front of a judge. So what I will do is act accordingly and not prosecute this as a violation, knowing that you are most likely going to codify this activity, and therefore it will become moot before justice, the wheels of justice will grind on top of it. So that's my understanding from your consensus.
That is a correct understanding. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney.
Okay.
Councilor Spoon?
Yeah, is Principal Dinsey still here?
I don't think so.
Okay, Chris, would you mind? Oh, Scott or Chris, one of you, would you reach out to him and ask him to at least alert Paul that the fireworks are going to happen next Friday? I'm okay. Obviously, I'm not interested in like ticketing him or fining the school, but it would be really outstanding if they would reach out to him in this week so that he has plenty of time to prepare.
And Principal Dinsey is now on here.
Yeah. So Councilor Spoon, yeah, we'll reach out to him. We've made that a practice for our football games. We usually send the SRO out there and he notifies them. And the last few times we've done it, he's been appreciative that we've come out, but he didn't. Last time he said it wasn't necessary, but we will still continue to do that and let him know about next Friday.
Are there still 2 graduation planned? That might be critical information that it's going to happen more than once the same.
Right.
Graduation this day, but it's going to happen twice. That would be great.
Yeah, right now that's the plan. It could change depending on the risk level of the county. We might be back to 1. So we're hoping. We'll see.
Thank you, Principal. I appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Bangs, did you have something else?
Just one final point, other than that, that was also going to be in my school report, the graduation ceremonies, but it'll be a quicker meeting later on. I do work for the Canby School District, and I actually will not be voting on the measure. I don't stand to make or lose any money, regardless of how you vote, but I won't be participating in the actual vote when we do vote on this.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Thank you all. I think we're good on this one. I'm going to move us along. Mayor's business. I don't have any right now. Clackamas Coordinating Committee meets tomorrow night. The Region 1 Area Commission on Transportation meets on Monday. And then my liaison report with the Park Advisory Board will happens the Tuesday before our next meeting. So I'll have updates at the next meeting. Councilor comments and liaison reports. I'm going to go right around what's on my screen. Councilor Bangs.
I got nothing.
Okay.
We are closing out graduations next Friday. We got 6 and 8 p.m. services planned with mask-free spectators, but you have to have 2 tickets. You can only get it from a graduation. Thus, beginning to end the longest school year in recorded history. And school will end for all other 12 grades the following week. Speaking of students, I do have 2 students lined up to serve the city on our library advisory board and the Heritage and Landmarks Commission. Both of them are completing their applications for the city or have done so already. And we did just apparently hire a new superintendent, Dr. Aaron Dobbs, who is currently the assistant superintendent at West Lynn Wilsonville School District. And nothing to report on the library group, which doesn't meet until next week.
Thank you. Council President Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have much to report other than a reminder that we do now have a vacancy on the Traffic Safety Commission. So if you're interested in partaking in all things traffic safety, please submit applications to Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Tibbles.
I have nothing to report at this time, Mr. Mayor. I will have meetings at the end of the month, and I've been playing catch up since getting back into town. So I'm a little bit behind, but I plan on catching up there and have something to report next meeting.
Thank you. Councilor Spoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say congratulations to the class of 2021. Like Councilor Bangs, I have a child graduating this year, and I'm so excited for them. It's been a long, unusual junior and senior year for them, so it's exciting that they get to celebrate. I Also wanted to say what a great job the high school theater group did. They had their first in-person play since COVID. I think Chris and I both had kids in that as well. It was the Queen jukebox musical We Will Rock You, and it was a delight. It was an extra game of guess who's talking or singing because they had to do it with masks on. So I spent half the play trying to figure out who was talking or singing, but they did such a fantastic job. It was a fun one. I wanted to say that I'm excited. This is Pride Month, and I'm excited to celebrate all of our LGBTQI plus citizens and visitors to town. You're welcome here, and I appreciate you. And then in terms of transit, the CAT, Canby Area Transit, received a new 35-foot bus. It went into commission at 3:30 p.m. today for the 99 Express route. The goal is actually to make sure that all of our 99 Express routes are 35 and 40-foot buses. For increased capacity. So we're getting there. We're in the process of transitioning to the new vendor that we approved in the last few meetings. I don't remember exactly which one it was. That new vendor doesn't start till July 1st, but we do some work with helping current drivers transition to the new vendor if they would like to stay with Canby Area Transit. So we're in that process now. We also now have a plan and a route and a plan for a route and a schedule for the circulator, which we're still on track for October 1st to launch. There might still be some tweaks as we continue to engage with the new vendor, employees, the businesses, but there is a plan right now that's in place that we might tweak a little bit. Also, we have a new opening on the Canby Area Transit Board as well. Chris, if you had any other students that were interested in boards that did not make your two cut, I would love you to send them my way. I would love to see a student on the Canby Area Transit Board, especially now that we're approaching a circulator, which I think will be more widely used by youth as well. And so if you have any other names, send them my way. I would love to get a student engaged on Canby Area Transit Board. And then finally, a question for Scott. I had some citizens reach out to me as we near more and more regular openings in the city. I had some citizens ask me when the book page was canceled, it was discussed that it might be reconsidered at a future date. And some of them asked me if we were going to reconsider that as the library opens and it can be not put in bags or handed out, but out the way it has been for the last decade in the adult sections, information desk, et cetera. Is that something I'd like to let, if that's up for reconsideration, or if you've decided not to reconsider the action?
Councilor Spoon, as of right now, I hadn't really given that any further consideration. Part of it was it was a subscription that it was due for renewal. If we were going to renew it, I mean, I'm sure we could restart it if we wanted to, obviously, but we didn't renew it specifically. So I guess I would have to revisit that. I don't have a great answer for you right now.
Okay, well, I just had some citizens ask if once we're open, where the people won't be concerned about being put in bags for people, but could be out the way it was for last decade. So on the long list of other things, in all your free time, I guess I should say, I'll let them know that isn't on your agenda yet. So, all right, thank you.
Councilor Parker.
Well, first, I want to welcome Councilor Tibbetts back to the Valley from the hot, dry, arid regions of Texas to more moderate temperatures here. But we're glad to have you back. My meetings start next week, so I have nothing new to report. And in terms of citizen input, and Scott, I'm sure you'll address part of this with the manager's report in a few minutes. But people, of course, have been asking about the splash pad. And really, again, that's your call. That's based upon the health protocols. The thing I would ask is that we are ready the minute that the protocols are hit or the risk level is dropped, that we don't start planning to open at that point, that we're ready to go and turnkey ready the second that we're given permission. So that's all I had.
And finally, Councilor Barwick.
Thank you very much. I will have a report at the next meeting. I have nothing tonight.
Great, thank you. Speaking of city administrator business and staff reports, Mr. Archer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Parker, you perfectly teed up my one and only report I have for you this evening. I was going to talk to you about the splash pad opening. We do, in fact, have a plan for a grand opening date. I want to announce that to you this evening, and then I will tell you that we will be sending you some follow-up information by email to invite you and let you know what's going on. And also, obviously, we want to get the word out to the community. So I'm really happy to tell you that, well, backing up to your point, Councilor Parker, we have been struggling with the guidelines pertaining to splash pads and other types of things. We just made a decision, actually just today, we kind of finalized this and determined that we can open the new splash pad at the Maple Street Park on Friday, June 18th. We are going to put together a kind of a simple but appropriate ribbon cutting ceremony that we'll invite all of you to, of course, Mayor and Council, as well as our Parks and Rec Board at 4 p.m. So Friday, June 18th, 4:00 p.m. will be our official dedication of the new splash pad, being our first one. It's a big deal, and we want to celebrate that. I know our community is excited. The date that we landed on, of course, we're having summer-like weather, and everybody wants to go play in that right now, and we'd love to do that. A few things on that. One, the 18th is the first full day of summer break for our Canby students. I believe Councilor Bangs just mentioned kind of the wrapping up of the school year. I think the 17th is the last official day for any of the students. So the 18th is a Friday, and it's the first official day of summer break, so it kind of is a nice kickoff. Secondly, we're still doing some kind of final run-throughs. Actually, you might either drive by and see, or you might hear of the spray pad actually running and operating over the next several days. That's kind of a final test that we have to run through to get it operational. And then lastly, yes, being compliant with the most recent, as of today anyway, guidelines, we had to do some work to prepare ourselves, and that includes getting some signage ready that will be posted. I don't even know if this is viewable. This is just a kind of a snapshot of some signage that talks about, we still have to advise under the current guidelines, we have to advise our users of that facility that they have to still abide by social distancing unless they're in the same party, I guess, family party or household party. At any rate, we're doing some things to make sure that we're compliant. Perhaps the guidelines will be less restrictive by 2 weeks from this Friday, and it will be a little bit easier to deal with. But we will be running the splash pad every day from that point forward, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for the remainder of the summer. And then, of course, this will be an annual thing. And we probably will be able to get that open earlier than waiting until the end of the school year, perhaps by Memorial Day weekend or something going forward. But this year, it just with COVID stuff, as well as getting it operational the first time, it just took us a little bit to get there. But we are excited about that. So you will all be receiving an invitation to our ribbon cutting ceremony. That's all I've got, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Let's see. Next opportunity is another opportunity for citizen input. Melissa, do we have anybody else that would like to address the council?
We do not.
Okay. Action review.
All right, you have approved the consent agenda, remanded the decision regarding DR 20-03, CUP 20-03 back to the Planning Commission, adopted resolution numbers 1349 and 1356, and adopted ordinance numbers 1556 and 1557.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That concludes our June 2nd meeting. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion's been made by Council President Hensley and second by Councilor Ferrari to adjourn. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Camby, have a great evening.